The most powerful and impactful movements of my generation have, from Me Too to Black Lives Matters, have been led by Black women. And we all know that passion, drive, creativity, and ideas are not limited to any one ethnic group. So given this, I ask myself why there are so few Black women, Black people, people of color leading development campaigns, especially here in Europe. And so my first suggestion is that there is a targeted effort to ensure more Black people and more minority voices are represented in the leadership of our advocacy and campaigning efforts. And very practically, this means organizations should be deliberate about recruiting more Black people into advocacy director, campaigns director, policy director roles. And I promise I'm not lobbying for myself here, but these mono-ethnic leadership teams and coalitions just cannot continue, in my view. And I find that the standard response from organizations is that the pipeline just isn't there, which inevitably leads to delay at best and inaction at worst. But I was really struck that on the day that Prime Minister Boris Johnson announced the merger of DFID and the Foreign Office, there were two parallel conversations taking place. There was one conversation convened by the leaders of the UK development sector, which was largely overwhelmingly white, and a parallel conversation that was convened by the women who set up the Diasporic Development Forum, where people of color came together and reflected on what the merger might mean for development and for our work. And I think our response would be immediately strengthened if these two groups came together, if they planned together, if they campaigned together. And I would definitely encourage the leadership of the UK's development space to reach out. Just show me the feminist organization led by all men. It doesn't exist.
I feel like hiring more Black people, hiring more Black women in positions of leadership, being intentional about that, is the thing to do, because what we've seen is institutions who are doing things that the optics are there, giving people Juneteenth off, in the US, recognizing in Europe that there's poverty porn has been used in certain ways, recognizing on the continent that inequitable pay scales are something to address. But now it's like moving towards action. I don't think any of these institutions that are inherently racist and honestly and anti-Black in a lot of ways will be able to move forward authentically without Black people in positions of leadership. And I want to center that because I don't want us I don't want all these amazing Black women we walk out of here and what everyone heard is, wow, all these steps that my all-white institution can do to like be authentic. It's like, you can't be authentic with no Black people in positions of leadership. And so until you get Black people and people of color and people who represent the communities you say you're in service of in positions of leadership, I want to know from the sisters on this call and my co-panelists, can we ever actually anyone be authentic if your leadership doesn't represent the communities you say you're in service of and that you care about and that you love? And so I would say hire more Black people. If you're working on the continent, more Africans, more African women.
But one of them is banning all white shortlists. And that's about recognizing the potential for bias. It was based on an organization that recognized that not enough Black and minority ethnic people were coming through and said, what can we do? And they took the decision to ban all white panels. And they said that if we cannot make a sufficiently diverse panel internally, we'll bring that expertise in externally.
And then the second thing, in line with hiring more Black people in leadership, we're not looking at boards enough. All organizations have boards. And a lot of time, the visible minorities that people hire are in leadership positions. But when we get back to funding, the funding decisions are oftentimes made or signed off at the board level. And many of the organizations the big ones, the small ones that we look at, the boards are really not diverse. And when they are diverse, that work of just accepting where the world is starts at that level, and then it gives permission to even the leadership, even if your CEO is a Black woman, to actually be able to run this organization with authenticity and being herself, not feeling like she has to fight all the time with not only her board, but even people in her own leadership team.